I was just fixing the fence. Until she said she needed me inside too. The story opens with the male narrator, a 22-year-old man, crouched over the backyard fence, hammering nails into weathered wood. His hands are roughened by labor, his arms dusted with sawdust, but there's a quiet satisfaction in the rhythm of work. The sun hangs low in the sky, warm and golden, glinting off the metal of the hammer and casting long shadows across the grass. Every strike of the hammer echoes in the stillness, mingling with the faint hum of birds in the distance. This is his domain for the moment, solitary physical grounding. And then she appears. She's a woman in her early 40s, walking with effortless poise across the yard. There's a subtle grace in the way she moves, a calm confidence that comes from years of knowing herself. Her hair catches the sunlight, faintly warm and shining, as she brushes a strand behind her ear. Her presence is quiet yet commanding. She doesn't need to speak to make herself known. He notices her before he's aware of it. The way the sunlight frames her, highlighting the gentle lines of her face that speak of experience, laughter, and resilience. She carries a small basket, perhaps with laundry or tea, and she doesn't rush. Her smile is small but genuine, a spark of amusement that suggests she's been watching him for a while. There's a subtle invitation in her eyes, a mixture of curiosity and acknowledgement, as if she's silently asking, "Are you as careful with your work as you are with everything else?" The tension is delicate, understated, and entirely unspoken. He pauses mid-swing, hammer hovering in the air, and for the briefest moment, their eyes meet. His heartbeat quickens, not just from the interruption, but from the awareness of her gaze. He feels both seen and oddly exposed. The smell of fresh-cut grass mixes with the faint scent of her perfume, floral, understated, and it lingers in the warm air around him. The contrast between the physicality of his work and the soft elegance of her presence creates a quiet, magnetic tension. She tilts her head slightly, watching him, and there's an ease in the way she stands that immediately sets him at ease, too. He notices the subtle movements of her hands as she adjusts her grip on the basket, the way her shoulders relax under the sun. It's these little details that draw him in, details that reveal warmth, subtle vulnerability, and quiet confidence all at once. This first encounter is not about words. It's about perception, the kind of silent understanding that happens before any conversation begins. The audience should feel the scene as if they're there themselves. The tactile sound of hammer against wood, the golden light spilling across the backyard, the gentle, magnetic pull between two people who are only beginning to notice each other. By the end of this part, the stage is set. The narrator is drawn in, his focus split between the task at hand and the unexpected, quietly powerful presence of a woman who will challenge him emotionally in ways he hasn't anticipated. The tension is subtle, slow-burning, and intimate, the perfect beginning for a story about closeness, trust, and the delicate unfolding of an age-gap romance. The afternoon sun slants lower now, painting the backyard in soft gold and long shadows. The narrator wipes sweat from his brow, still holding the hammer, when she steps closer. She doesn't hurry. There's no urgency in her movements, just an effortless grace. In one hand, she carries a small basket, perhaps filled with freshly laundered clothes, perhaps with a warm drink. Her other hand brushes lightly against her hair, tucking a loose strand behind her ear. Every gesture is deliberate yet natural, unassuming yet captivating. "You're working hard," she says, voice soft but steady, laced with amusement. "But I think the fence might be better if you had a bit of help inside." The words are simple, almost casual, yet they carry an unspoken weight. There's a duality in them. On the surface, it's a practical suggestion, but beneath, it's a subtle invitation, a request for company, for presence, for connection. The narrator hesitates, hammer mid-air, caught between politeness and curiosity. There's something in her gaze that stops him, the way her eyes hold his with quiet expectation, playful yet sincere. He follows her across the yard, the wooden boards of the fence creaking softly underfoot. Each step draws him further into a space that feels at once domestic and intimate. The kitchen door opens, and he steps inside, immediately struck by the contrast from the outdoor brightness. Warm, muted light spills across the room, bathing the countertops and floor in a cozy glow. There's a faint aroma of freshly brewed tea mingling with the subtle scent of citrus from a bowl of fruit on the table. The atmosphere is calm, inviting, a quiet sanctuary from the afternoon heat and the demands of labor. She gestures for him to set down the basket, and he notices the small details. The slight curve of her smile, the way her fingers linger on the edge of the counter as she moves past him, and the soft sway of her hair. There's an ease in the proximity, a natural closeness that feels comforting but electric at the same time. As he reaches to place the basket, their hands brush. A fleeting, almost accidental touch, but it leaves a lingering warmth that neither can ignore. Conversation begins to flow, casual and light at first. A comment about the day, the fence, the weather. Yet beneath the surface, there's a quiet curiosity, an emotional probing without words. She asks about his plans, his thoughts, his dreams. Not in a nosy or intrusive way, but with genuine interest. He notices the depth in her eyes, the way they soften when she listens, the slight nods that encourage him to open up. In this moment, she isn't just a woman. She's a presence that demands attention, subtly reshaping his awareness of the world around him. Every sensory detail reinforces the intimacy. The warmth of the sunlight through the windows, the faint clink of cups as she moves to pour tea, the soft rustle of fabric as she settles at the table. The narrator's pulse quickens with awareness. Awareness of her, of the small spaces they share, of the unspoken possibilities lingering in the quiet. By the end of this scene, the audience should feel the magnetic pull between them. A slow, simmering tension that is as emotional as it is subtle. The story is no longer just about fixing a fence. It's about crossing into a space of trust, vulnerability, and the gentle beginnings of emotional intimacy. The afternoon fades toward evening, and the narrator finds himself staying longer than expected. What began as a brief visit has quietly morphed into a shared rhythm of small tasks and subtle companionship. He helps her carry groceries, adjusting the weight of bags between them, and she laughs softly at his exaggerated care, her voice warm and teasing. Each laugh is like a brushstroke, painting the moment with intimacy without needing anything more than presence. As they move around the house, small gestures punctuate the silence. He hands her a dish towel, and their fingers meet in that fleeting, almost accidental way that makes the chest tighten unexpectedly. She adjusts a curtain, and he steps close enough to steady her hand, feeling the gentle brush of her shoulder against his own. These moments are understated, yet they resonate with electricity. Subtle sparks igniting in the space between them, the kind of tension that doesn't need words to be felt. Conversation flows naturally, revealing layers of who they are. He speaks of ambitions, fears, and the quiet anxieties that accompany youth. She listens with patience, occasionally sharing her own reflections, shaped by decades of experience. The age difference is present but unforced, expressed in the calm steadiness of her perspective against his restless energy. They share stories of small victories and quiet regrets, and in these exchanges, a bridge forms between them, a connection built on understanding, humor, and gentle empathy. The narrator becomes acutely aware of the sensory details that surround them. Sunlight now softens through the kitchen window, painting patterns on the floor and spilling warmth across their skin. He notices the faint scent of her perfume mingling with the aroma of something cooking or freshly baked in the oven, a combination both grounding and intoxicating in its simplicity. The rustle of fabric as she moves, the soft hum of distant life beyond the windows, even the occasional clink of a cup or plate. Each sound and movement deepens the intimacy of the moment. Their physical closeness grows naturally, imperceptibly at first. Brushing hands while passing objects, standing shoulder to reach something on a high shelf, leaning slightly toward one another to hear over the hum of conversation. These gestures are innocent, yet they carry a subtle charge. The narrator notices the way her eyes linger on him during a shared laugh, or how her fingers pause briefly when adjusting his grip on a bag or tool. Each interaction is layered, full of meaning beneath its casual surface. By the end of this part, the emotional tension has deepened without ever needing to be named. The audience should feel the quiet pull between them, the unspoken questions, the hesitation, and the magnetic curiosity that keeps him drawn into her orbit. What started as simple assistance has become an intricate dance of proximity, trust, and awareness. A slow-burn intimacy that sets the stage for the vulnerability and desire yet to come. The story, in this moment, is no longer just about chores or polite conversation. It's about the delicate weaving of emotional threads, the building of trust and closeness, and the subtle hints of desire that linger in every glance, every touch, and every shared laugh. The late afternoon sunlight softens, spilling through the windows in warm, golden streaks, and the backyard now feels distant, almost as if the house itself has become a quiet cocoon around them. The narrator notices how the air seems heavier with anticipation, though neither speaks of it directly. He's still helping her with small chores, but there's a noticeable shift. The playful ease of before now carries an undercurrent of something deeper, something that neither can fully name yet. She approaches him quietly, her presence suddenly more intimate. She doesn't need to say much. The weight of her gaze, steady and searching, is enough to pull his attention completely. Then, softly, she speaks, I need you inside, too." The words hang in the air, deceptively simple, yet heavy with meaning. There's no demand, no urgency, just honesty. She's not asking for help with a chore. She's admitting vulnerability, and the narrator senses the subtle tension beneath her calm exterior. His hands freeze for a moment, stilling over whatever task he was doing. There's a pause, a suspended heartbeat where time seems to narrow to the space between them. The narrator's mind races, caught between instinct and restraint. There's curiosity, yes, but also respect, hesitation, and a dawning realization. This is more than casual interaction. She is inviting him, not merely into a room, but into a quiet part of her life that few ever see. He notices how her fingers brush lightly against the edge of the table, almost seeking a tangible connection, and the gesture sends a subtle warmth through him. As he steps closer, the sensory details amplify the intimacy of the moment. The warmth of the room wraps around them like a soft blanket. The faint aroma of tea, subtle, earthy, comforting, mingles with the scent of her hair as it falls loosely around her shoulders. Her eyes catch the light just so, glimmering with something unspoken. Longing, trust, maybe even hope. Each small motion, the tilt of her head, the subtle shift of weight from one foot to the other, communicates a quiet urgency without needing words. The narrator feels a complex rush. The thrill of closeness, the tenderness of trust, and the prickling tension of unspoken attraction. He realizes that she's not merely inviting him to stay physically nearby. She's asking for emotional presence, for attention, for acknowledgement of the connection that has been quietly growing. The moment stretches, a gentle pause that invites the audience to feel the intensity of their bond. There's a subtle, almost accidental brush of hands as he moves to help her with something nearby. The contact lingers longer than necessary, a tactile punctuation to the quiet confession. Neither moves away, neither speaks. The silence itself becomes a language, an unspoken agreement that the emotional distance between them is shrinking, replaced by warmth, trust, and a fragile intimacy that teeters on the edge of romance. By the end of this scene, the audience should feel the story's emotional tension rising to a delicate peak. The connection is no longer casual. It is charged, intimate, and deeply human. The narrator is aware that boundaries, desire, and vulnerability are all entwined, and the stage is perfectly set for the next step: quiet understanding and the deepening of emotional closeness. Evening settles softly over the house, casting long shadows and filling the rooms with a gentle, muted glow. The backyard, with its hammering and chatter from earlier, now feels like a distant memory. The world outside has faded into background hums, leaving just the two of them in a quiet, suspended moment. They sit together, perhaps on the couch, perhaps near a window overlooking the fading light. The air around them charged with subtle emotion, yet peaceful. The narrator notices how natural her presence has become. She doesn't command attention. She draws it effortlessly. Every slight movement, the tilt of her head, the gentle curve of her smile, the way she folds her hands, seems designed to invite calm and focus. There's a softness to her demeanor now, one that complements her confidence and makes him feel both seen and respected. He feels the ease of their growing intimacy, the kind that doesn't need overt gestures to speak volumes. Conversation is gentle, layered, and revealing. They speak of ordinary things, favorite books, small memories, thoughts about the day, but beneath the surface, there's a current of emotional disclosure. He begins to share moments of vulnerability, dreams not yet fulfilled, moments of uncertainty, and quiet fears. She listens, her gaze attentive, occasionally nodding or offering a soft word that encourages him to continue. Then, in turn, she shares glimpses of herself, stories of past struggles, the weight of decisions made long ago, or fleeting regrets that shaped who she is today. It is not dramatic or confessional, but deeply human, a mutual exchange of honesty that feels safe and grounding. The narrator is acutely aware of the small, intimate details that define their connection. Her hand brushes lightly against his shoulder as she laughs. A glance lingers just a moment longer than necessary when she listens. He feels the warmth radiating from her, subtle but insistent, and notices how the soft evening light catches her features, highlighting the depth and gentleness of her eyes. Every gesture is understated but loaded with meaning. A touch that reassures, a look that invites, a movement that signals trust. Even the silence between words carries weight. Moments of quiet aren't awkward. They are filled with unspoken understanding. The narrator realizes that intimacy isn't always loud or demonstrative. Sometimes, it exists in shared glances, in the rhythm of breathing together, in the unforced nearness of two people who are learning to navigate each other's emotional space. By the end of this scene, the slow-burn romance is no longer subtle. The audience can feel the magnetic pull between them, the comfortable tension that doesn't need words to exist. It is the kind of closeness that makes time feel suspended, a safe cocoon where emotional honesty and silent longing coexist. This part solidifies their bond, showing that romance isn't just about gestures or declarations. It is about understanding, presence, and trust. The audience is left with a sense that these two are moving closer emotionally, inch by inch, touch by touch, glance by glance, creating a foundation for the vulnerability, desire, and heartfelt confessions that will follow. Twilight seeps into the room, casting everything in a soft, diffused glow. The earlier warmth of the afternoon has shifted into something quieter, more intimate. The narrator sits near her, perhaps on the edge of a couch or a worn wooden chair, feeling the subtle shift in the space between them. It's heavier now, not in a burdensome way, but charged, like the calm before a storm that is gentle and tender. The air carries the faint aroma of tea and faintly scented candles, mixing with the soft, comforting scent of her perfume. Every movement she makes seems to draw him in without effort. She reaches for something on the table, and as he moves to hand it to her, their fingers brush, a deliberate, unhurried touch that lingers. This is no longer accidental. It's a gesture full of intent and attention, a tactile acknowledgement of the closeness that has been building over hours, days, perhaps longer. Their conversation takes on a new depth. He finds himself speaking more honestly than ever before, admitting feelings he's barely allowed himself to recognize. Admiration, fascination, even a quiet fear of overstepping boundaries. Her eyes meet his with unwavering steadiness, reflecting a similar honesty. There's no teasing now, no playful deflection, only clear acknowledgement of what has been simmering between them. She doesn't respond with words immediately. Instead, her small, thoughtful gestures, a gentle nod, the tilt of her head, a softening of her expression, convey understanding, acceptance, and perhaps shared longing. In this moment, silence becomes as potent as speech. They sit close, not forcing any proximity, yet drawn together naturally. The narrator notices the warmth of her shoulder as she leans slightly toward him while listening. Her hand lingers near his arm, almost brushing against him without moving away. Every detail matters. The quiet rhythm of her breathing, the soft gleam of her eyes in the fading light, the way the room seems to shrink around them until it's just the two of them and the unspoken connection that pulses between. He dares a small, tentative gesture, reaching out to lightly touch her hand. She doesn't withdraw. Instead, her fingers rest against his, subtly entwining. It's a quiet, profound affirmation, a silent promise of emotional closeness, trust, and mutual acknowledgement. The tension that has been building now finds a gentle release, not in grand declarations, but in these simple, intimate confirmations of feeling. The audience should feel the culmination of the slow burn journey, the push and pull of restraint and desire, the deep emotional resonance of unspoken connection, and the beauty of subtle gestures as carriers of profound meaning. This is the peak of emotional tension, the first moment they fully see each other as more than acquaintances, more than friends. By the end of this scene, the stage is set for resolution. The characters have acknowledged their feelings, not through dramatic confession, but through presence, touch, and understanding. The romance is now undeniable, but still tender, restrained, and human. The audience feels the pull, the longing, and the quiet satisfaction of witnessing a connection that has been carefully nurtured from the very first glance. Night has fully settled outside, and the house feels cocooned in quiet warmth. The earlier hum of daylight and chores has faded into a gentle stillness, leaving only the soft ambient sounds. The faint rustle of curtains, a distant car passing on the street, and the subtle creak of wooden floors as they shift in their seats. The narrator and the woman sit near each other, neither needing to fill the silence with words. The room, lit by the soft glow of a lamp or the residual twilight, becomes a private world, intimate, safe, and deeply human. Their connection, built over hours and days of subtle glances, shared labor, and small gestures, now feels tangible and weightless at the same time. He notices the ease of her breathing, the calm presence in her posture, and the way her eyes soften when they meet his. She reaches for a mug of tea, and their fingers touch lightly, holding the warmth longer than necessary. It's deliberate but understated, a quiet affirmation of trust and companionship. Conversation is gentle, reflective, and honest. They speak of the day, of small observations, and of fleeting thoughts that reveal their inner worlds. He admits how much he has come to value her presence, how her quiet strength and warmth have quietly reshaped his perspective. She, in turn, shares a rare glimpse of vulnerability, perhaps a lingering worry or a tender memory, and he listens with full attention, offering reassurance not through words alone, but through the subtleties of presence. The gentle tilt of his head, the steadying of his hand near hers, the way his shoulders relax to match hers. Physical closeness remains meaningful but restrained. She leans slightly into him, not out of necessity, but instinctively, a silent acknowledgement of comfort and trust. He offers the same reciprocity, a hand resting near hers on the armrest, a shoulder angled subtly closer, a glance that lingers just a beat longer than polite conversation would allow. The audience can feel the quiet electricity, the intimacy of touch, the warmth of proximity, the unspoken acknowledgement of emotional and romantic connection. Depending on the emotional arc chosen for resolution, this moment can unfold in different but equally satisfying ways. Together and secure. Their fingers intertwine fully, hands resting in laps or clasped between them, a smile spreading across both faces. They lean slightly toward each other, acknowledging love without urgency, the peace of knowing they are finally seen by the other. Together but uncertain. A lingering embrace or a hand squeeze communicates affection and mutual acknowledgement, even as the future remains unwritten. The tension of possibility remains, but there is comfort in shared recognition of feelings. Emotional resolution without romance. They sit side by side, shoulders touching lightly, sharing warmth and trust. Words of appreciation are exchanged. Gratitude, respect, the quiet acknowledgement of a bond that has transformed both. Romance may not blossom, but connection endures. Separation with lasting impact. A gentle parting occurs, perhaps at a doorway or over a kitchen counter, with hands brushing once more, a look that speaks volumes, and the bittersweet awareness that the connection will linger, shaping who they are even in absence. The story closes on a note of emotional completeness. The audience feels the slow, deliberate buildup of intimacy, the tender gestures, the silent understandings, and the climactic recognition of mutual vulnerability. The journey from the fence in the backyard to the quiet shared space inside has been a measured exploration of emotional trust, subtle desire, and human connection. The final image lingers. Two people present, warm, and quietly entwined in a moment that feels infinite. A testament to the power of slow-burn romance, the beauty of restraint, and the emotional resonance of a love that grows from patience, attention, and authenticity. If you felt the warmth and tension of their story, hit like and subscribe to follow more slow-burn romances that linger in the heart long after the screen goes dark. Share your favorite moment in the comments. We'd love to hear which part made your heart skip a beat.